Hello and welcome back to the channel, my digital mutants. It is I, Delmico L. Cunningham, better known as Dr. Media. So, I know I have been a little MIA in the past couple of weeks. And as I have seen the channel continue to grow, I am very much appreciative of all of the digital mutants out there that are joining the Phoenix Inception channel and learning about all the great things that we do here at Phoenix Inception's Media and about myself, Dr. Media. I'm glad that you have all tuned in and joined the channel. Some of the videos that have been some of the stronger videos that I've done on the Inception channel have been the Freenas videos. So I kind of wanted to make this video to do a little bit of a tour of my Freenas box, talk about some of the plugins that I currently use, and then also to get a little bit of feedback from the community of where I should go next. Now, I will say one of the things that has taken me away from doing the videos for Freenas currently is one, I also am a corporate trainer. So I do a lot of training with the Adobe Suite, and I do a lot of training just of business training and social media, business practices, things of that nature. So some of that stuff has taken me away from this. And as some people know, I also am an instructor. So I'm also a professor. So besides all of the Freenas stuff I do in my free time, I also have the corporate training stuff, and then also doing the 3D production and UI work and all the other freelance stuff that I do. It's a lot. It's a lot going on in the life of Dr. Media right now. So things have gotten a little bit crazy and a little bit out of, I won't say out of hand, but just a little bit more fun. I'll probably have some more projects coming up pretty soon, and I like to share that with the rest of the basically the rest of the channel when those things come to fruition. I don't like to kind of give things that haven't kind of come out yet. So when those things drop, then I'll be able to talk a little bit more about some of the other things that's going on. Now, besides all of that, I also, my early life in computers was spent in the IT world. So I did a lot of work in IT, did a lot of custom computer builds, which I still do. And you know, so with the Freenas stuff, I'm starting to get back to my roots. So one of the things that I have been thinking that would be a possible turn of events moving forward is to do more stuff in the kind of alternative OS space. I'm a huge, actually for my main daily driver, I actually run SUSE Linux, and I also run Fedora Linux, as well as I do every now and again I dabble, and I say dabble lightly because it's one of the I think that Gentoo Linux is probably one of the most sophisticated versions of Linux out there, and if you don't know what you're doing, you can end up in a world of hurt. So I do use a lot of Linux systems, and so I'm kind of trying to get feedback from the community. Where do you guys want to see some of the next kind of computer related videos go? I know I have the stuff for the 3D and all that stuff's kind of all separate, and you know, getting more into system building and talking more about how to construct a computer. As many of you will see, or if you've seen my videos in the past, you'll know that the current Phoenix home server that I have running Freenas it's not a beast of a machine. It's actually not. This is an Intel 5150, and this is a 775 socket chip, and there's two of them. So I have two 5150s running at 2.6 gigahertz. That is considered old school in the current generation of Xeons and everything else. They're not quad cores, they're dual cores, but it's a dual socket motherboard. So this is an Intel based motherboard. It's an older one, and it's really a server. Honestly, it's a server board that I have appropriated for a Freenas server. So the maximum that this thing will hold is 12 gigs of RAM, so it's holding 12 gigs of DDR2. So it's not even fast RAM, it's not a fast processor, and the only thing that's really kind of cool about this is that this sucker is loaded up with drives. Currently, right now, I have. And we can look at my storage and we can go to view my disk. So you can see right now I've got 3 1 terabytes and I have 7 2 terabyte drives and one 5 terabyte, 500 gigabyte drive. So in the future, what I'm probably going to do for expandability, I'm probably going to continue to upgrade the 2 terabyte drives. Now, what will probably happen is that this will become a secondary NAS system, and I'm going to build another NAS system. The next NAS system will probably be AMD based. I have a couple of Opteron, I think 8250s laying around, and those were basically AMD's version of Xeon processors for the kind of enterprise space. So, but the thing that I do like about the AMD's Opterons is, unlike their desktop counterparts, which would be the Bulldozer kind of architecture, so unlike the AMD desktop chips, their server chips are actually very, very energy efficient. I know it's kind of weird to say that and say AMD in the same sentence, but because a lot of people that use AMD video cards and AMD processors are used to them being the hotter as far as heat dissipate, as far as heat coming off of them, and higher wattage. One thing that I will say about the Opteron processors that I've found is that the Opterons, they work in a very low power threshold. I actually have 4 AMD Opteron based servers that I use for rendering 3D images, and they are 6 cores. Yeah, they're 6 cores apiece. I have 4 of those guys. They have 32 gigs of RAM in them, and the power supplies for those servers are only 350 watts. Now, that's something to keep into scale, because a lot of the Xeon processors that I have, and some of the older Xeons that I actually have, and that's probably something I'm going to put a link to, because I'm actually going to be selling some of the older Xeon based systems that I have. I have 4 16 gigabyte and these are socket 604s. So these are Intel socket 604s, and they're dual sockets and dual core chips. So that's realistically a quad core running at 3 gigahertz. Those motherboards have to have at least a 600 watt power supply to push those 2 3 gigahertz chips and 16 gigs of RAM, and that's it. And in comparison, I've got Opterons that are 12 core, 2 6-core chips running at 12 cores and 32 gigs of RAM, and I'm powering those off of very, very small 1U racks that are only 350 watts. So that's pretty amazing. So with this next FreeNAS system, I think I'm going to be going Opteron. I'm going to be doing a team Opteron build. What I might do, and this is going to depend on the feedback that I get off of this video, is I actually might show the build of the new server, and I will probably be taking some of the drives out of this, because the new build that I want to do, the build that I have now is actually in a full tower ATX case. I want to change this build into either being a 3U or a 4U server case, which is going to be more horizontal and give me more depth and take up less space, because I'm kind of tired of the tower sitting in my work area, and plus I have a tower that's my main driver. So I kind of want to do some reconfiguration of the Phoenix workspace, and I'm thinking about a lot of things, a lot of upgrades for the studio. Well, not really a studio. Well, kind of the studio, right? So I produce these, of course, at home, but I kind of have a studio space set up. And I might do a tour of that if that's something that people want to see as well. It's, I love my my workspace, and I have a lot of stuff piled into a very, very, very small space. But some people are interested in kind of what kind of computers are you running and all that stuff like that. And I've shown my main workstation here that I use daily, which is an old It's an older 1336 socket, dual socket Xeon, which has like 40 gigs of RAM, and I use this as my daily Windows machine. Well, kind of. If people are interested in it, I could kind of go a little bit more into that in other videos, because I'm running Windows from inside of Linux. I know it's kind of weird, and I can't show you because the capture software that I'm using is actually running in the Windows portion of Linux and not on the Linux portion of it. In this current system, I'm actually running Fedora. I'm running desktop 22, and I'm running Windows inside of a virtual environment, and is actually hardware emulated. So Windows thinks that it's running on a regular computer. It doesn't know that it's actually running on another machine inside of another machine. So that's actually kind of cool. That you can do virtualization, stuff like that. So that might be the next place that I take a lot of these videos for the Freenas space, is maybe going into the virtualization portion of it. There's some things that I've been wanting to play with and try out. So with that being said, you've seen all the hard drives that are sitting in here. If you look at my storage, we can see how I got my storage broken out into pieces. So I've got the render volume, the Phoenix render volume, the Phoenix Media 2 volume, the Phoenix Media 1 volume, and then the Phoenix strip volume. And then all of these guys are running in RAID 6, ZFS 6, which is like RAID 5 for normal rating. And then I've got movies and stuff in here, and none of these drives are really at capacity. So I've got, 7.1 terabytes here, 2.5 terabytes here, and another 2.2 terabytes. And then I also have this one drive by itself, which is the 500 gig drive that I use to dump stuff to when I'm working on the network. And I use that because it's still faster. I get about 80 megabytes a second throughput through my gigabit internet connection, and that's my local gigabit connection, which isn't great, but it's decent enough for the stuff that I'm doing. So I don't really complain about it. So that's kind of how that is. So effectively, I've got about 12 terabytes of space. What I'm planning on doing in the next iteration of this is using 3 terabyte drives and then stacking that sucker full of drives and having another failover, and then having that more for the video production stuff, because we're planning to do a lot of video production here at Phoenix Inception Media in the coming months. So some of the other things that my Freenas system has, if I look in my plugins, I can show you the plugins that are currently installed. I'm currently running Plex Media Server as well as OnCloud cloud services. So I run both of those, one, because I want to be able to get to my movies that are local anywhere. Now, I could do that by using WebDAV or some other type of connection. WebDAV is, you can run WebDAV over HTTPS, and I tell you, anything that you run outside of your home, if you're trying to connect to OnCloud, then you need to make sure that you're doing an HTTPS connection, which is going to be a secure HTTP connection, because you really don't want somebody grabbing all your data and then just pulling all your stuff, and then they've kind of got all your information. So I wanted to be able to get to my movies and stuff when I'm on the go, when I'm out doing training, so I wanted to be able to have that accessibility anywhere where I'm at, and Plex Media Server lets me do that. So I actually run Plex Media Server directly on my Freenas, and I'm gonna do an update because it looks like it needs to be updated. Actually, I'm gonna wait because that's probably gonna take a while. So I run Plex Media Server, which is actually pretty cool because I can get to all my movies and stuff that I've loaded up here on my local server. I can get to those anywhere. And then OnCloud. OnCloud is my source. Instead of having to have something like TeamViewer always running, and I do use TeamViewer and I do use VPN services to connect back into my computers, but if I only want to get to my files, I have all of the files that I need, my daily files, whether it's 3D files, whether it's Word document stuff. I have all that secured on my OnCloud connection. So I'm using OnCloud to basically have my own cloud server that I can upload and download from and to, and I can get to that, once again, I can get to that anywhere that I need to, because I'm basically using a DNS service to be able to connect to my Freenas box outside of my home network, which is one of the advantages of having it. So the other thing that I'm running in here, if I look at my jails, so if I look at my jails, and the jails are kind of the plugins, right? So for every plugin, there'll be a jail. And you can see right now I have an OnCloud jail, I have a Plex Media jail, and I also have a Kodi database jail and a PHX web server jail. Now, the PHX web server is basically doing what it sounds like. It's running a web server on my Freenas box. And then I'm also running a MySQL database on my Freenas box. All of these things are running at the same time. So locally, I'm able to share files locally with just connecting to my my Freenas box as a NAS device, so I can save things to it and read things from it. So it's serving that purpose as a local media storage device, and I think that's pretty impressive. So locally, it's a local media storage device. Separately, it's also a cloud-based media storage device because I've used the OnCloud plugin. And then it also is my entertainment NAS device because I have Plex running on it. And then it's also my Kodi database. So if any of you are using some type of home media service and you're familiar with Kodi, Kodi is the replacement for XBMC. XBMC was a media player. It was styled after the original Xbox, and it became its own thing. And now they've changed that name of that to Kodi. And Kodi is a media server. And the really cool thing about Kodi is that Kodi runs on Android, on OS X, on Windows, on Mac. It runs on Linux. It has its own operating system, which is OpenELIC. Kodi is a really cool little media server. Now, that's the cool thing about it. The better thing about it is that it will pretty much 9 times out of 10 play any media that you throw into it. So what I currently have is I have a bunch of very small Android boxes that I purchased, and they're only 2 gigs. Like, these things only have 2 gigs of RAM in them. 2 gigs of RAM, 8 gigs of storage space, and I'm expanding that storage base by using 16 gig SD cards in them. And I have Kodi installed on those guys. And they're really cool because those have replaced my Comcast set-top boxes. I no longer have Comcast. So I don't pay a monthly fee for my set-top boxes. I bought these boxes from online, and I set them up with Kodi. They have Netflix on them, they have Hulu on them, and that's honestly how I get my media. Some people might say, well, why don't you just get a Fire Stick? Well, for me, I like Amazon. I like the whole thing they've done with the Fire TV, the Fire Stick, and everything like that. But I like to be able to kind of have that hacking feeling of putting together and cobbling together myself. I like being able to play with all the innards and, say that I have optimized this. Now, what we have started to do is that we are starting to use Freenas as the base of home-based servers, because I believe in the future that every home should have its own home-based server, and every home should have their own cloud server connection in-house. That should just be something you have in your home. It's not as expensive as it used to be to have a server in your house. I believe that I'm a firm believer in recycling server parts. I firmly believe in the recycling of server parts because, working at larger corporations, I know that most of them are on a 5 to 6 year life cycle for their hardware. Meaning that after 5 years, whether the hardware is old or not, they do massive upgrades at some companies. Smaller and larger companies do this. So every couple of years, you'll see, if you look on eBay, there's tons of companies that actually do they do network pulls. So their company, basically gets in secondhand server technology, and then they sell it off. Now, in some cases, the server stuff that you actually get is not secondhand. I've actually gotten motherboards before that were brand new, like completely brand new motherboards that had never been used, because in the IT world, what ends up happening is that when you buy for your department, you'll usually buy spare parts just in case. if you have a server and the server goes down and you might need a new motherboard, you want to have maybe 5 or 6 or maybe 10 or 100. That's a little extreme, maybe 50, right? You want to have extra parts laying around in case these servers, if you've built them yourself, in case they need to be repaired. So I have gotten deals on a lot of AMD stuff that was brand new. It was still in the wrapper. It was someone else took the initial cost away because one of those chips or motherboards was probably $400 or $500, and when I purchased it, I got it for under $100 for the motherboard, or I got it under $100 for whatever. Now, I'm a firm believer in PC recycling. If you can recycle, then you should, because many of the things that are in PCs can't be recycled. A lot of people will pull the gold from the contacts inside of electronics, but the actual silicon and all that stuff is really not recyclable, and that stuff just ends up in landfills. So I'm a firm believer in reusing technology. Most of the Freenas server that you're looking at right now, it was built from, I will say, relive parts, so recycled parts, not new parts, not really used parts, but just recycled parts. Altogether, this server was very cheap for me to buy, and because I have now you have to know, and I will say, when you're buying recycled parts or pooled server parts, you do take a huge gamble. It could work, it could not work. I've got 4 or 5 motherboards that I've purchased that just didn't work. One of the things, and maybe I'll do a guide to this, but one of the things I can honestly tell you is, if you're looking at motherboards that come from HP or Dell, one of the big PC manufacturers, or IBM even, you're probably better off not buying one of those boards that comes from a major manufacturer, especially Dell. Dell's one of the top ones, and not that Dell parts are bad, but Dell parts are meant to be very proprietary. So Dell has their own power supplies and everything else. So unless you have all the pieces to that particular Dell model, I would not buy Dell products that way, unless you buy the whole server itself, and you can do that. There are occasions where you can buy like a 1U or a 2U server and everything's already put together. It's already got the chips in it, it's already got a little bit of RAM in it, it probably doesn't have hard drives, but it probably does have a power supply. So usually it comes with like a case, power supply, and the CPUs. I actually bought a Xeon Socket 604 server for $40, and it came with, I think, 16 gigs of RAM and 2 3 gigahertz chips, and the chassis, which was a super micro chassis, a really expensive chassis with removable drive cages already in it, and I used that for my mail server. I could use it for another Freenas box if I wanted to, because it's plenty powerful to run. The only problem why I don't run it is because it has Delta fans in it, and those fans are really, really loud to have on all the time. The Phoenix Monster NAS down here is bad enough with all the fans from the drive cages that I installed in it. So I don't run the 1Us unless I really need to render or something like that. So that's kind of my Freenas setup. And as I said, what I want to get from the community is where I should go next. What videos are you guys wanting to see come out next? Are you wanting to see more Freenas stuff? Are you wanting to see more stuff inside of Linux? Or are you wanting to see more crazy builds? I actually do plan on taking the 4 computers that are my render nodes right now. So they are running Windows Server 2008 edition, and I'm running Windows Server on there for a particular reason, because I do a lot of my rendering in Windows, and I needed some particular rendering softwares installed on those machines. So that's what that mindset is. But I'm actually designing right now. I'm designing a full water cooling solution for all 4 servers. So I'm going to be running all 4 of those servers off of one water cooling loop. And I know some people are already saying, you know, Dr. Media, you are insane. You're mad. Why would you do that? You should, you know, have them all separate. Well, I'm going to build a self-contained system to house a pump, water supply, and then have all the radiators fed from that one water supply. And I already know people are going to say, well, if you do that, you're going to have heat on all the chips and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, I know. But honestly, it's going to be way better than running the 1U fans that are already on them, and it's going to be better than trying to get some type of 1U solution that would be pre-purchased. That would be really, really expensive. So, you know, that's kind of where I'm going. But I just wanted to touch in with the community, get feedback from you all. What videos do you want to see me do next? I've done on-cloud videos. I haven't really done a Plex video. I haven't done a Plex video yet, but I've done videos on setting up your own FAMP development server on Freenas. I've done on-cloud, and I've done some other things with Freenas. So you tell me, what do you want to see with Freenas? Or if you want to see something completely different and we go a different way with this, let me know. Honestly, if there's something that I know how to do and if you want to see custom builds and things like that, then let me know. I've got a video camera. I just haven't used it. So anyway, until next time, hope you liked what you see here on the channel. If you do, hit that subscribe button down there. And if you don't, then don't hit the subscribe button. I don't know. We do really cool things here. Hopefully you'll want to check them out. Until next time, guys, I am Delmico L. Cunningham, better known as Dr. Media.